Right then, in this video, I'm going to try eating horse meat. You heard that correctly, I'm going to eat a horse burger. Now, thing is, saying that in England is quite controversial really, but it's not controversial in other parts of the world. Before I get onto that, let's talk about meat in general, because in England, you only really get, for a good price, get 4 types of meat, and that's the meat from cow, pig, sheep and chicken. That's quite a limited range. Like, in terms of just variety in general, you would have thought it'd be better to have like a more broad range than that. In terms of dietary requirements, the more varied diet you have is better. But there are a few other things we eat, such as turkey, deer, but deer is a very expensive meat, and there's not that much else. And also, lamb's actually more expensive than, say, beef. So really, for people with not much money, it's literally just pork, beef and chicken. Very limited. So, with the subject of meat and eating other animals, usually when people talk about eating other animals than the most common ones, it's generally usually a luxury thing, like people with lots of money who are spending money on a delicacy, a nice dinner in a restaurant with something unusual. In terms of that, you do get other things, such as wild birds being shot and eaten. I'm not sure how I feel about that, because that's going down the route of game birds and people shooting. Like, people might shoot goose or some bird that flies overhead, but I don't like the concept of shooting, because the whole thing is rich twats get enjoyment from killing an animal, and I really hate that. Even though I know meat is about eating animals, and I'm not vegan, I have to eat meat for my health. I wouldn't be able to cope with being a vegan because I've got cystic fibrosis, which means I can't digest my food that well, so I literally have to eat a lot of fat and a lot of meat to get all the nutrition I need. But the thing is, the whole idea of someone going out as a sport to shoot a bird like it's fun, it's not for me. But on the other side of that argument, rich twats keep large amounts of land, and keeping land for shooting also means they're helping nature in general. Like, land for shooting also is habitat for many other animals, and that's what they would say is their justification. But with that said, I literally can't do it. I cannot eat game bird. The fact I know the bird has been shot for someone's enjoyment offends me so much, I literally just cannot eat game bird. Also, the whole thing about eating random birds is you don't know what a bird's eaten. Like, for example, people actually eat wood pigeon, but don't eat town pigeon, when a town pigeon and a wood pigeon are quite similar. Is it on the basis that a town pigeon is more likely to have eaten dodgy stuff around town when a wood pigeon would have been in the countryside eating seeds, so it's a more healthy bird to eat? Except I often see wood pigeons in the towns eating scraps of food alongside the town pigeons, so that doesn't make much sense either. But also another thing is, a wood pigeon is such a small animal. You're killing a whole animal to get very little amount of meat. I just don't like that route. Also, with all those birds I've just talked about, again, that is like a delicacy. That's like an expensive thing that posh people go to a posh restaurant to eat something unusual. I don't care for that, because to me, food is something you eat because you need to eat it. I don't give a fuck about posh food. So, is there another animal out there which you could eat to just add to the variety of food being eaten, which is not posh, which is not some sort of luxury alternative, which could be farmed in the same way a cow is farmed and eaten, in the same sort of ways, the same sort of cost, so it's not expensive, but currently is not being farmed to be eaten? Well, there is such an animal, and that is the horse. Now, before I go on to eating the horse meat's got a very bad reputation in the UK, and from the research I've done, there's pretty much just 2 reasons for this. One, horse meat has an association with old knackered horses. Like, people eating old horses which have worked, but which means that a horse has not been fed stuff safe for human consumption, meaning the meat is no longer safe for human consumption. Like a race horse or a horse doing work is most likely fed lots of things to its diet, is not intended for the food chain, plus they've most likely had lots of medication which is also not safe for the food chain. So the whole idea of eating horse is generally considered unsafe. But it doesn't have to be. A horse could be farmed just like a cow for the food chain, which therefore would make it safe. The other thing is the horse meat scandal. A few years back there was this big scandal where horse meat found its way into beef. And the issues of that is, one, is fraud because they're putting a cheaper horse meat in with the beef and lying about what it is. Secondly, it was not properly farmed horse that was going into the beef. It was just cheap, knackered horse meat, which was not safe for human consumption, going into the beef to bulk it out. So that wasn't safe, and that was a huge scandal. And because of all of that, it's made horse meat turn into this dirty thing that people don't want to touch in this country. So, let's just talk about horses. A horse is a large animal, about the same size as a cow, is a herbivore, which makes it safe to eat because, let's face it, eating carnivores is not particularly safe because the problem with eating a carnivore is the carnivore has eaten meat, making the food chain more complicated because with a carnivore you'd have to make sure the meat that the carnivore is eaten is safe for the food chain, then you have to make sure the carnivore you're eating itself is safe for the food chain, making it a very complicated process, and generally it's just not considered safe to eat carnivore. For example, I would not want to eat a dog, I would not want to eat a cat, I would not want to eat a fox. But a horse, on the other hand, is a herbivore. It eats a similar diet to a cow. I can't see any reason why you can't eat a horse, and why eating horse can't be ethical. And also, from my research, horse meat has more protein in it than beef. So why not eat it? Now, I did quite a bit of research looking at different countries and where horse is eaten. Surprisingly, the research was harder than I thought it would be. I found a couple of restaurants in Italy selling horse meat, but these were generally posh, overpriced restaurants, such as this one, selling exotic meat such as zebra, kangaroo, ostrich, bison, camel and horse. That's not the point which I'm interested in. Again, I don't care for posh twat stuff like that. I want to talk about horse as a good, sustainable, correctly farmed, safe for the food chain, but served as a fast food, as a meat for everyone to eat, for an everyday person who doesn't have much money. And there's actually only one fast food chain in the whole of Europe that does that, and that is located in Slovenia. Right then, it looks like I'm off on an adventure to Slovenia to taste test some horse meat. So then, his fast food chain in Slovenia that sells horse meat is called Hot Horse, and while back in England, horse meat's got its reputation for being like a really cheap, dirty meat. You'd expect it to be some sort of like cheap, tatty takeaway or something, but it's not. This is actually a very professional looking fast food chain. Their shops look very modern actually, looks very nice, very professional. Like, just take a look at this shop. It's not the sort of little tatty corner takeaway you'd stereotype. It's a very modern, very well presented, very nice looking, and to me, as someone who doesn't eat in the little crappy takeaways because I don't trust the food quality, a very well presented shop like this is precisely the sort of place I'd eat in. It looks very professional. It looks like the sort of place I'd want to eat in. So, let's go and try some horse meat. So then, I actually do two different sizes of burger here, a smaller burger and a larger burger. The smaller burger costs €7, which came to £6 and 9 pence. And the smaller burger, I'd say, has roughly the same amount of meat as a McDonald's quarter pounder in the UK. So that's a bit more expensive really. And also, Slovenia's food prices are a little bit higher than the UK's food prices because it's Eurozone prices. So whatever you think of a McDonald's burger's costing in England, add like about 10-20% onto that for the price that you'd pay in Slovenia. But with that said, £6 for a horse burger, even in Slovenia, is still more expensive than the price as the same equivalent amount of beef in a beef burger in Slovenia. That's a little bit disappointing because I was hoping the horse meat would be the same price as beef or maybe even slightly cheaper. So that means if I was a regular person in Slovenia just buying food because I don't have much money, I would, I guess, price it out of my budget a little bit, which is a bit disappointing because I was hoping the price would be cheaper than that. Although in all fairness, this is a very small scale chain of fast food restaurants. If McDonald's sold horse burgers, I reckon they'd get the price of horse down as cheap as beef. And this horse meat chain also does horse meat salad, which is quite bizarre to me, but there's nothing wrong with that. So, let's now eat the horse burger. This is what it looks like, and the bun a burger's in does look a bit cheap. Like, looking at it from this picture, it makes it look worse than it is. So don't judge the burger just by the slightly rough looking bun it is in. And as for tasting a burger, it actually tasted fine. I'd actually even say it tasted slightly better than beef. It was actually a very nice burger. There's nothing I could say was wrong with this. An interesting fact, I actually ate horse meat when I was 3 years old when I went to France. Some French person randomly gave me a piece of horse meat and I ate it. And even though it was a very long time ago, I could still remember the taste. And this horse burger was exactly how I remembered. It actually tastes really nice. If I had the choice between horse burger or beef burger and they were both the same price, I'd easily choose horse burger. It is far better. Just to be clear, this fast food chain is not selling knackered horse. The horse meat has provenance, it's farmed in a farm dedicated for safe horse meat for human consumption, so it literally is the equivalent of farming a cow. And there's literally nothing wrong with this. Horse meat should be sold in the UK. Horse meat should not be considered a bad or dodgy or dirty meat because when farmed properly like this, it's a great meat. It's weird because saying that in my house right now doing this recording in England, it sounds weird because there's this controversy around the subject. But if you take a controversy away, there's literally nothing wrong with horse meat. So I guess this video counts as a controversial video, even though in Slovenia it's not a controversial video. And that is the end of the video.
可以拿进来。